In Lab 8, you'll find a link to the file String Manipulation Program. This short video is going to take you through some of the aspects to understand how all of this stuff works and give you a better idea of troubleshooting. First of all, you should have a proper programmer's block with title, author, date, and description. You should have clearly labeled the include section, and we're going to need standard io.h because we're using printf and scanf. Using standard lab8 because we're going to be using the system command to pause. And we also are going to use the string.h because we're going to use string length. Now our function prototypes, we got void, printout, char, star name because we're passing in a pointer to a string that we want to have printed out. We also have integer count character. Now this is similar to string length, except this one will not count space characters. So again, we're passing in a pointer to that, and we're returning an integer, which is the count. In the third example here, we've got a function called getName, which is going to grab some stuff from the keyboard, so there's no input parameter, but it's going to return a pointer to where that name is in memory. Also, if we take a look here, we've got define 80 as max, and max is going to be our array length here. And one of the things you'll find is there is a getString function, or GETS, on some older systems, but that's no longer supported. And one of the reasons for that is people tended to run over their length of their array and have some issues there. So what we've done here is we've actually set up one that's identical to that, except that it provides a little bit more functionality here in terms of making sure that it does not exceed the maximum length, and we will demonstrate that as well. So what we're going to do first is just run our program. We're just going to do F5 to run it, and let's get an idea of how this program works first. So it's going to ask to put in your full name, so I'm going to put in my full name here, and it should come up with your name is, and then whatever you've typed in. It has 15 characters. This is a string length command being used. This is the one that we've written that will do non-space characters, so it's 2 less because it's not counting these 2 spaces, and that's how your program should work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple things. Right off the top here, we're going to change max 80 to make it smaller than the number of characters I'm going to type in, and we're going to see that this should still work. So I'm just going to run that up with 5 characters. So I'm going to try and type in a name that's longer than that, and let's see what happens. And notice that it's compressed this because what it's done is it's got 4 characters of my name here, and the other character that it put in is actually the null character. So this will indeed work to make sure we're not going to overflow our character buffer. So let's go back to 80. And why are we choosing 80? We're choosing 80 because that's the total number of characters you can typically type across on a text screen. Now the other thing that you should be aware of is right now it's got static char name. And if you remember about scope of characters, what happens if we take this out? Let's take a look and run it one more time. So if we run it, what we're going to see is that if I type in my full name, it's going to give garbage. Now notice something interesting though. It does come up with the proper number of characters here for string length, but then it blows stuff out of the water here and it gives a bunch of garbage, because even though, as we'll see, the pointer is still at the same place, the pointer does not point to valid data because it's taken away the name out of memory and flushed that out. So that's one of the reasons why we definitely have to have here, let's just Control Z, we have to have in here static to make sure that it's going to maintain that name in memory as we're passing pointers around. Now the next part of our program that we're going to look at is we're just basically going to set breakpoints and take a look at pointers and understand how these functions work in a little bit more depth. Now to further analyze our code, what we're going to do is we're going to set a breakpoint. We're going to set a breakpoint over here at xpointer just to get an idea of how things work. And what we're going to do is I'm going to run our program with F5, and what we're going to do is we have a number of watches here already, so I'm just going to say clear all because we want to start with a fresh slate. And what I'm going to do is just click on here, right mouse click, and say add watch. And right now, if we open this up and take a little bit closer look at this, let's take a look up here. It says expression cannot be evaluated. It's a bad pointer because it hasn't really executed this statement xptr equals get name. Now if you remember, get name returns an address value, x pointer is going to get that. So we have some options up here. Let's take a look at what we have here in terms of control for single stepping. First of all, continue allows us to run completely to the next breakpoint. We have over here step into. Now it goes to the next statement, but if it happens to be calling up a function, it actually goes into the function. Step over allows us, if you're really trying to execute a function, it allows you to step over that function and see the results of it, like a printf, as opposed to going into the printf statement. And if you happen to go into printf and you want to get back out, you can do step out. So we're just going to do step into. And at this point, if we take a look over here, it's saying get name, and since we've done the step into, if we slide down here, we can see that we're actually into the get name function. Now at this point, notice this has been ghosted because we're no longer in this function. So we can start taking a look at variables that are here. So if I right mouse click and say add watch and open up name, how big is name? 80 characters. Now it's zeroed all this stuff out, as you can see here. Let me just close this up again. And we might want to take a look at X, so I'm just going to right mouse click and say add watch for X. Again, there's nothing here in X because X has not been defined yet internally. And so those are the two things that we want to take a look at. Now I'm going to set another breakpoint here at the while, because what it's going to do is, if we look back on our screen, it says enter your full name, and it's waiting for us to type in our full name. So at this point, if I hit continue, another continue here, and it brings this up again. So we have full name sitting here. So let's type in our full name. And hit enter. Now at this point, let's click here to put that in the background. And let's take a look at what's in name right now. Notice it's just got the D. If I hit continue, it's going to bring up the A. Again, continue, V, I, D, and we can keep continuing on like this until it has my complete name in there. Notice the spaces and so on here. Now I'm going to set another breakpoint. Let's go back up here to where it has length. So I'm just going to keep continuing so we can go back to that point and still look at what's going on. So there's ROSS, and then when we hit this, boom, we're right up to here. Now if we look at our watch variables, let's just close this up a little bit. We can see that our array is in here. This is ghosted. Now it understands X pointer because we're back into this code here. And the X pointer, as you can see here, is now pointing to the D in my name, first D here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do step into again, string length. The string length is going to say length equals. So let's take a look and see what length is here. We can just hover over it, or we can add watch. String length right now says F, but if I right mouse click and change this from hexadecimal to regular, you can see that's 15, and we can change it back. So we can see that's happening. And so now it's going to do the printout function. So let's see how that works. Let's just step into our printout function. So let's take a look at printout. And what we have here again, it's passing in a pointer. And the pointer, if I just hover over it, says name. So it's actually, you can see that address 00FE9140. That's where my name is. And again, what we can do is we can take a look at A here. We can just add that to our list of things we want to take a look at. Add watch. Let's again put a breakpoint there, hit continue, and we're putting stuff out to the screen. So as I keep continuing here, notice the D is gone, continue again, the A is gone, the V is gone, and so on, because it's sending those things to the screen. If I take a look on our screen, you can see those characters that were taken out, DAVI, have been taken out and put on the screen. And then we can just keep hitting continue if we want until we see all of our name is completely done. And what we can do if we want is we can just go here, right mouse click, delete breakpoint, and hit continue, and we'll see the final result coming up on our screen here as we saw before. So this is a good way to learn troubleshooting, to try out things and understand the concept of static arrays, because if you don't use static, it will set a pointer, but the information at the pointer will not be there again. So try some of this stuff out to really understand the code that's here with step in to step over and step out.